dysfunctional vet. If you remember, I did a drift test on my tractor and I found that the bucket was sinking at the rate of 5 inches per hour. Spec is 1 inch on a drift test. To recap, the way you do a drift test, you set the bucket at a specific height, doesn't matter what it is, turn the tractor off, measure the height of the tractor, come back in 1 to say 4 hours and check and find out how much the bucket has dropped. My bucket is coming down at the rate of 5 inches per hour, so it's too high. I've got a problem with a cylinder or something else. I have a cylinder here, I have a cylinder here, and on the other side, right back in here. So what I'm going to do, I've raised the bucket into the up position. I'm going to disconnect this valve right in there, and then what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to raise the bucket up. I should get some drip, I should get a little bit of fluid, but if I get a steady stream, that's my bad cylinder. And I'll have to do all 3 of these to test them. So that's what we're getting ready to do. So I'm going to stop the camera, disconnect that, and then we'll do the cylinder pressure check. Okay, we know that that cylinder is good. This is the control mechanism that controls the hydraulics. This rod right here, let me zoom in on this, this rod right here and the one right beside it, which is down lower, see it right there? These are the 2 rods that control everything. As you go down through there, there is back in there somewhere, there's a O-ring, which is actually a dust ring, as well as a ring to keep fluid from coming out. The fluid O-ring is seated back in there somewhat. But these are the control mechanisms, and I'm going to try to set the light where you'll still be able to see everything. There we go. See the mechanism moving. The mechanism here is A. The mechanism back over here is the B mechanism. This one is I believe it's a 4-port 6 valve. I believe they called it a dented. This one is a 4 valve. I'm getting it backwards. Been reading this stuff backwards and forwards. To get these out, there's a little bitty pin. See the pin right there? You take that pin out. Now, these 2 valves are not interchangeable. The one that goes here has to go here. The one on the other side has to go there. On the top up here, I don't know if I'm going to be able to zoom in, but I'm going to try. Let's see, I can see it. Can I zoom in on it? See that black lug in there? There's 2 of those. Those have to be removed in order to remove those pieces. There is a battery compartment right here. And I've been reading the instructions on how to remove all this stuff. You have to remove these rods, these control rods, and these rods have very specific lengths. and the movement on them is critical as well. And I am trying not to have to remove all this good stuff. And I'm going to have to go talk to a Kubota mechanic and see if there's a workaround. Let me show you the back side of these things. I tried to wash this off in the middle of the day, and I was being blinded by both the sun coming down and the water splashing into my eyes. So it's not as clean as I want. I'm going to have to redo it tomorrow. But let me show you the back side of this baby. Again, these are not as clean as they need to be. I need to come back and wash them again, but as I told you earlier, I was getting blinded by the dirt coming back into my face. Let me back this off. Maybe I can get it to come into focus. This ring, this circle that you see right there, is part of a CERT clip, which holds this plug in place. And you notice a little bitty microscopic hole right there? Well, according to the directions, you remove these and you slide those pieces that I showed you just a moment ago out through this. You clean everything, you reassemble it, you put it back together. Now I called the Kubota dealer and they told me that this valve is about $1,200 to $1,500, and I think that's the whole working fireworks there. But what I need to do is get a rebuild kit and rebuild these little jewels and not pay $1,200. I showed you the drift test a moment ago, and I think the problem is here. Now I just watched a couple of videos on YouTube trying to find somebody that was working on one of these things. I found some, and yeah, they took them apart, but they didn't show anything about the assembly or any of that. This thing is pretty complicated, and if you look at the drawings, and I'll show you those in just a minute, this is nothing to be sniffing at. When this thing is put together, if it's not done correctly, it won't work. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart the one on the right hand side first, rebuild it, then take apart the one on the left hand side, rebuild it, and put it back together. In the meanwhile, I need to find out if the distance that these things are threaded in is critical, or if I even have to take these out at all in order to remove the stuff on the inside. Now the instructions in the manual, which I'm going to be showing you in just a second, warns continuously not to damage the O-rings and to grease everything. And I agree with that. Now you can see those plugs in there. See that? And I'm hoping that I can reach those by removing the battery. I may have to open up the hole that's in the bottom of this battery case just a little bit with a Dremel so I can reach in there and get those out. Again, I want to talk to a mechanic and find out about that. I think I could drop a wrench in there, but I want to make sure this thing is just surgically clean before I do that. The Kubota, when it comes, is this area right here that you're seeing is usually covered with plastic. There's a shaft. See that kind of a gray looking thing right there? That's a shaft that comes off of the motor and goes back to the hydraulic pump. And that's an actual danger to anybody working on this thing if this Kubota is running. That thing is spinning, you don't want to get into it. You don't want your clothing to get into it. So I'm going to look for some workarounds on this, because I don't really want to spend $1,200 if I can rebuild the thing with a rebuild kit for say $40 or $50. Alright, here's my tractor manual. It's a WSM tractor. I've got the BX25 with an LA, who knows, back loader. I mean front end loader. And I'm not sure what the back of the thing is. We have just general information: engine, transaxle, front axle, steering. I don't know if you can see any of this because of
I don't know if you can see any of this because of the glare, but what we want to do, you got the hydraulic system here. This shows you your hydraulic circuit, which is not all that complicated. These are your control valves here, and I would suggest you learn how to read these schematics. You got the little squiggly lines, you got the X's, you got the little deals telling you that the fluid, let me see if I can zoom in on that. This is showing you how the fluid is flowing when these things are in various positions with the lines. Moving on along, having trouble grabbing this, my hands are dry. We have the various schematics and such. This manual, I think it's a couple of hundred, don't really remember. Got the electrical system, rotary mower, which I will never use. I should probably throw this section out, just taking up space. I hung on to it in the off event I ever sell the tractor. The manual would go with it. Alright, now this is the front end loader, and we have the hydraulic circuit, which is similar to the one you just saw. The one that was just shown was the master, and this more has to do with the front end loader. And then your control valve assembly, your structures operation, and so forth. Now, flipping one page over, if I can. Here's your control mechanisms. Remember I told you have an A and a B? Now this is power beyond. All the fluid that's coming off the hydraulic pump comes up here first, and from here it then flows to power beyond. That's going to be your backhoe, your PTO, all that good stuff. Okay, this is your flow in, and this right here, if the fluid's not being used and it's not going to power beyond, it comes back and it goes to the tank. These drawings over here represent your cylinders, either your lift arms or your bucket. So depending upon where this is at, when you're moving this bar, then what happens is the fluid is flowing to various places, if that makes sense to you. Alright, now here is the assembly that I was just showing you. This is the back side where I was telling you it had dirt on it, but it had the little cert clips I've got to get out of it. These right here, these two spots, are where I have to pull these out. I'll show you that in just a second. I've got to pull these out before I remove these rods. So this is just a much larger version. These are the pieces over here that bring this back into a neutral position. It's from what I'm reading. Not saying I'm right, I'm saying from what I'm reading, from what I think I'm understanding. These things have springs. This always moves it into the neutral position so that as the fluid is coming in here, it bypasses everything and it either goes to the tank, which is Tango, up here, Tango, or it goes to power beyond. So you have several pages of this, and these dark areas here, it says B, right? So you look over here for B, and it says this is high pressure, and it shows you the high pressure and the low pressure system on your hydraulics. It tells you what everything is doing. And right here you have a low pressure A and a high pressure B. The dark areas are your high pressure. The A's are your low pressure inside your cylinders, depending upon what position everything is in to cause them to work. Now you got servicing, you got all kinds of stuff here, specifications for bolts and that kind of stuff. How to remove the arms if you want to do that. It shows you with the arms and where to take care of everything. one other thing on the Kubota is they say that whenever you call the dealer to talk to them, have the serial number and the model number of the arms so that they can find your stuff. Alright. If you remember, I told you there was a covering on it. Took the outside cover off, I took the inside cover off, and then everything is exposed. Now here is the mechanism. When you're looking at this baby, you're looking, in our case, this was the right hand side that I said I was going to change first, which is the A cylinder, because I'm only going to work on them one at a time. I'm not going to pull them both out. But here are those two top pieces that I told you about that have to be removed. If you notice, you have a nut, an O-ring, a spring, and some type of a little, looks like a T, which is probably some type of a valve. And I'm guessing, but I don't know this for a fact, I'm guessing that when this thing is aligned, if you get some type of overpressure or something, this is a relief valve, since you have two of them. But these have to be removed when you remove these things right here, okay? And these, the proper name for these things are spools, S-P-O-O-L-S, spools. And then you got all these O-rings and springs and all kinds of stuff. And then you have the cert clips right down here, these 20s, which are the ones I showed you that were real hard to see because of the dirt. And they tell you how to fix cylinders and stuff. So stay tuned, and as I actually work on these things, if it turns out to be necessary, and it probably will be, I will videotape what I'm doing. I know this has been a bit long, but necessary. Right here, if you look, remember I was telling you you had these adjusting those rods. This is telling you where it's supposed to be adjusted to, where it's supposed to be. And here's the schematical drawing showing you everything that's down inside there. And the book tells you how to do all this good stuff, but I've not rebuilt one of these things in many years. It's probably been 30 years since I took one of these apart, and I'm not excited to tear this one down until I really know what I'm doing.